Hey, what is going on, crypto people? Listen, quick question for you. Does crypto feel broken to you right now? Like stocks are partying, which is cray cray, in my opinion. Gold's doing its thing, and crypto's just, side-eyeing the whole freaking room. Right, here's the twist. Raoul Pal's update basically says it's not broken. Did you guys catch that? I'm going to go over that video a little bit with you guys today. The clock moved. So Raoul Paul's update is basically saying crypto is not broken, but the clock has moved. And tonight I'm going to break down in four parts: liquidity, the cycle shift, what he calls alligator jaws, and my overall scorecard. So we're going to get into it. Appreciate you guys checking in. Happy Friday to each and every one of you. It's cray cray in the streets. I know it's cray cray in the streets. It's uh it's been a long time coming. 4 year cycle, kind of dead. But the idea that it could be a 5.5 to 5.5 year thing has been challenging for a lot, just for a lot of people. It's been challenging for a lot of people, right? It's tough in the streets. Wages are not great. It's certainly not, the wages are not increasing to meet, that 12% hurdle rate, right? 8% debasement, and then they throw in inflation at around 4%, right? So stuff in the streets. A lot of people had their hopes and dreams in this space on this trade, and to think that it's going into 5 years is tough. Five could be 5.5 years. It's tough. Nothing's the thing that we hope for in 2025 has not panned out, and it's looking now, and it's not even looking. It's 2026. Is what it's going to be now. Thank goodness for Flare. And for us as FLR holders and for XRP Fi on Flare networks, thank God for that. We're in the doldrums of this sideways movement, even down trend. We can still create cash flow, create more, gain more FLR tokens, gain more XRP, but it's been challenging in the streets for sure. So listen, happy Friday. I appreciate you guys checking in. We're going to go over Raoul Paul's video a little bit. I don't know if you guys saw it. Let me share something here real quick so you know what I'm talking about. Uh, Still broken. Let me find that right here. We'll have that as a reference. Urgent. Raoul Paul's macro thesis
Be honest, the
update.
back end.
So, yeah, we'll go, maybe check in on that video every now and then. But I did want to share some things with you, kind of my thoughts as well. Trying times, without question. Like I said, everybody's hopes and dreams is kind of in this trade. Been waiting for a minute, as the young kids like to say, for something to happen, and it's been challenging, right? It's been really, really, really challenging, especially if people are in hopes of using the wins here for um, just merely getting out of debt, using the wins here for um, getting their first home, paying down their mortgage, things like that, right? It's been challenging if the way to do those things, the vehicle to accomplish those things was going to be because you took a chance in this digital asset space on assets like Bitcoin, Ethereum, Solana, and XRP, FLR, and Songbird. And it hasn't quite come to fruition the way we would all like it to happen, right? So that's why I think having a macro view of what's going on is important. And thank God for Raoul Paul that he is willing to share this bigger macro view with us regular folks. Usually this is reserved for the institutions, high net worth individuals, people like Scott Bessent, by the way, who was a subscriber to Raoul Paul's new financial newsletter, uh, the Global Macro Investor. So, yeah, interesting stuff for sure. Do me a favor, guys, hit that like button on the way in. That'd be super duper dope. You know how we do? We always have to have just as many likes as we got viewers in the stream. It's an important time for us all, and I'm here to help in strengthening our resolve, strengthening your resolve, in it to win it. Know that this is the future, and that a new financial system is being built out. No question about it. In my humble opinion, that's what I believe. No one could convince me otherwise. So if you're new here, welcome to the live stream. Appreciate you guys checking in. If you're family, do me a favor and drop a fire emoji in the chat, right? Hit the like button for me real quick because it generally helps to push the channel out to more people who don't know that a new financial system, literally a new financial system, which with valuable assets that we already hold, some of us hold some of those valuable assets. This new financial system is being built right underneath their nose. They don't know. So, it's important. And, for the XRP content creators, I have to say that this is not financial advice, YouTube. I'm just kind of giving you a micro or macro framework so you don't get emotionally whiplashed, right, by this chop because it's brutal. 1 minute Bitcoin's 93,000, the next day, one day it's 93,000, next day it's 85,000. Like it's crazy, right? So here's the plan for the stream. Really, it's important to get this. Liquidity is bigger or more than narratives, right? The why this cycle may have stretched. I'll cover that. What Raoul Paul calls alligator jaws, and why crypto lagged, and kind of my scoreboard. What confirms versus what breaks the thesis, and I'll probably let Raoul Paul do most of that. So this is going to be a big one for sure because we have to figure out a way to get to hold on, and that's challenging, right? And so that's really, really challenging. And why I want you participating because this is one of the streams where you're gonna see the market differently after it. Also, do me a favor in the chat. If let me know if you watched that video by Raoul Pal. Just type in Raoul Pal, his recent macro thesis update. Let me know in the chat. Let me know in the comments if you're watching this on replay. It's important. So really, really important. No need to go over the market because the market is doing what the freaking market does. It's just doing what the market does. So, question: are you more frustrated or more patient right now? If you're frustrated, type frustrated in the chat. And if you're patient, do you feel like you're more patient? Type patient in the chat. It's going to be a big, 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 big deal for sure. So this chat is not updating. Hopefully it'll update here momentarily. I mean, how many minutes in are we here? 8 minutes in this. I know you guys are here, and this chat is not updated, which is cray cray. Map dot nowhere. What's going on, my friend? What's good? How are you? Appreciate you checking in. So, question: are you more frustrated or more patient? It's an important question. Let me know in the chat where you are. Right? There's no wrong answer. I just kind of want to know where you are. So, liquidity is bigger than or more than narratives. Why crypto is macro sensitive. It's macro sensitive. The why this matters framing is important. So, Raoul Pal said this, and this is a big point. Crypto is a liquidity sensitive macro asset, meaning it doesn't move because you saw a bullish thread. It moves because the financial system gets more or less, right, money sloshing around. How many people have heard, man, we got this good news about XRP. We got this good news about some bill getting passed. We got at legislative level. We got some big news about what Ripple is doing, and yet the market ain't doing anything. How many times have you heard that said, or you read that on Twitter, on X? Right? Again, crypto is a liquidity sensitive macro asset, meaning it doesn't move because you saw a bullish thread. It moves because the financial system gets more or less money sloshing around. Narratives matter. Sure, the narratives matter. But mostly for which coins run after liquidity turns favorable. liquidity turns favorable, right? He frames the whole game as currency debasement. And I think this is important. I think we have to we got to get a sense because if we're going to continue on this journey as a sophisticated investor, we got to understand the macro picture, right? So in the video, he frames the whole game as currency debasement, that over long time frames, liquidity expands, money loses purchasing power, and assets trend up. Key word there, assets. We got to have some of those, right? So you get this split. If you own assets, you ride the debasement wave. People like Buffett understand that. If you only have income, if you only have income, you feel squeezed. The wages are just not there. It's just not. And then you throw on top of that debt, massive debt to the basement. And then you got the debasement of the income that you're earning, right? You just feel squeezed in. So crypto, especially Bitcoin, sits on the hard asset slant adoption side of that equation. And so liquidity is the tide. Liquidity is the tide. Here's the simplest way to think about it. Liquidity is the tide. Narratives are the surfers. Liquidity is the tide. Narratives are the surfers. When the tide is low, even the best surfer looks bad. When the tide comes in, everybody suddenly looks talented. What's going on, Zed_007? How are you, my friend? So map dot where said not here. What is that? Map dot nowhere says patient. Appreciate that. You're more patient. I love it. Zed007 said, I'm frustrated, but I'm still loading up on FLR. I did the same with XRP. I was frustrated, but kept buying at about 60 cents. Nice. Good for you, bro. Good for you, my friend. Appreciate you guys checking in, hitting that like button on the way in. That's super cool of you guys to do that. And don't forget to hit the subscribe button. We got our goal, 10,000 subs this month. If you've been enjoying the hangouts here with Crypto Siege and family, please hit that like button. Don't forget to ring the notification bell as well. So that's a good analogy. I like that. Liquidity is the tide. Narratives are the surfers. When the tide is low, even the best surfer looks bad. When the tide comes in, everybody suddenly looks talented. And Raul's point is important here, right? Stop judging the entire market by a low tide month, plural months, right? Really good way to frame it. What he's basically saying is he's watching the Dows that loosen or tighten financial conditions. Rates, are they coming down? The dollar strength, is the DXY falling? Credit conditions, is lending loosening? Liquidity measures, broad money and system liquidity, right? You know, he likes the business cycle. His proxy is the ISM, right? Business cycle proxies like the ISM. So the important thing about this is you don't have to be as well versed, like you don't have to be a macro nerd, if you will, like Raoul Pal, for example. Somebody's been doing it for 3 decades, right? But you just need to know when those DAOs loosen, crypto is usually one of the most sensitive receivers, right? It's important to get that. Really, really, really important because again, we're on a journey of becoming a sophisticated investor. We have to level our skills. We have to level up our mind shift. We have to understand the bigger picture so that we can plan and respond accordingly, right? So for me, the takeaway from Raoul is, or isn't, buy because Raoul Pal said so. No, the takeaway is if you treat crypto like a macro asset, I always say valuable assets in a new financial system, right? The world is going to say these assets are valuable in the new financial system, right? The CFTC and that exchange, I forget the name of the exchange, that allow for Bitcoin, Ethereum, and XRP to be used as collateral. That's the world saying those three assets are the most valuable assets, right? Wall Street, Main Street, the digital asset space, those three assets are highly valuable assets, right? So if you treat crypto like a macro asset, you stop panic selling chop. You start asking, is liquidity about to expand or not? I was just reading a post from Arthur Hayes. He shared a post basically talking about the Bank of Japan and what they're doing with their rates. He believes it's a big time signal for Bitcoin. The challenge is it's going to be a little bit, a few weeks to 3 months, possibly of some really harsh times, right? Because it's going to be a squeeze with this reverse carry trade. It's going to be a squeeze. It's going to be some tightening before they say, "Oh my gosh," when the other G7 nations say, "Oh my God, we got to do something." Start lumping in liquidity into the space big time. So if yes, you position with patience. If no, you protect yourself and don't force trades. Right? It's important. So I love the analogy. I love the analogy for sure. So type tide if that liquidity analogy makes sense for you. What's up, Tony? How are you, bro? Life is good, sir. Appreciate you checking in. Type tide if that analogy makes sense to you. So the essential update is this from Raoul Pal. Kind of like the TLDR. This is the update part. Raoul argues that the old clean 4-year cycle rhythm got stretched because of how debt maturities were structured and then extended. So a lot of people who expected the typical schedule are staring at price action like, wait, why isn't it doing, why is it doing this kind? Why isn't it doing the thing? Right? His answer is simple. The schedule changed. Schedule changed. So imagine you've been paying your bills every 4 weeks like clockwork. Then the bank changes your payment schedule to every 5 weeks. But you keep checking your account on week 4, expecting the same pattern. That's what Raoul is claiming happened in the system. And why does that matter for us? And the crypto timing is important. If the system's big refinancing slant liquidity push shifts out, then the banana zone phase, the part where things can go vertical, might be later than what the crowd thinks. And emotionally, that's brutal. Emotionally, it's brutal, right? You're right about the long-term thesis, but early in the timing, right? So it still feels like being wrong. That is always the issue because we are humans, emotional beings. That's the challenge, right? I remember when Blockchain Backer said he realized that he was this emotional being. He had to do something to curtail that. And so he started journaling his emotions. He started journaling, literally journaling down. How is he feeling about this? So he could go back to it and reference it when the market got volatile, when things happened. Smart. I mean, it's massively smart that he did that. Massively smart. So his view is basic. Raoul Pal's view is basically this: 2026 can look very different from 2025 because of when liquidity really hits. Right? This part matters because it changes how you behave. If you believe the clock strikes, then you don't chase every pump like it's the one. You don't declare the cycle dead after every dump. You build positions like a grown up. Entries over time, risk controlled, no desperation. You get it? Do me a favor. This is an interesting one. I can't wait to see the results of this one in the chat and in the comments on live replay. Type 4Y for 4-year. 4Y for 4-year. If you think the old 4-year cycle still rules, I noticed a couple of people still believe it. Type 5Y in the chat if you think the market clock shifted 5Ys for 5 years. I'd love to hear what you guys think. He uses this phrase in the video, alligator jaws. And again, it's only about 30 minutes. He spends about the first 2-3 minutes, kind of covering advertising and all of this kind of stuff for his channel. But he starts to kind of get into it about minute 2, 3, somewhere around there. Just so you know. He uses the phrase alligator jaws, right? And he used that as an idea. When two things that normally track each other separate, like the NASDAQ versus BTC or gold versus BTC, you get this jaw opening and everyone starts screaming, see, crypto is done. But Raoul frames it differently. It's a dislocation caused by where liquidity is flowing. And this is why crypto kind of gets hit first. Here's the key. Crypto is furthest out on the risk curve. Heard Raoul Pal said it all the time. Crypto is furthest out on the risk curve. So look, when liquidity is tight, crypto is the first thing people dump. When liquidity loosens, crypto is often the first thing that rips. That's why it feels unfair, because crypto isn't the safe asset people hold through uncertainty. Not yet, not for most. Right? But the gap can close really, really quick, and that's what's important. And this is the part people underestimate. When liquidity returns, these gaps can close fast, not politely, not gradually, fast. That's why the people who rage quit the chop often end up buying back higher later. I remember blockchain back again warning about that being upside down, right? So instead of asking, why is crypto lagging today? Ask, is there a temporary dislocation? And if liquidity turns, will crypto respond the most? That's the mental shift. Right? So kind of like confirmation now versus prove it wrong. It's kind of like a scoreboard for me. And why scoreboard matters. This is where I separate having a thesis from being married to a thesis, because the market doesn't care what we believe. So we kind of need a scoreboard, confirmation signals, right? Here's what I would watch to confirm the thesis. Financial conditions loosen. For me, I want to keep listening to Secretary Besson every time he gets on the podium. I want to hear what he has to say, right? Secretary of Treasury, right? So financial conditions loosen. Rates are trending down. The dollar is weakening. We can all track it. The DXY is down. We can track that, whether it's falling or weakening. Liquidity actually expands. System liquidity improving. Broad measures, market plumbing. Stablecoin supply, we can track that. And on-chain activity rising, right? Which means the risk appetites are returning. Business cycle improves. You can track the ISM. You can join Real Vision. They give you the charts there for tracking all this stuff there as well. ISM is moving towards 50, which is important. Crypto responds like the liquidity asset it is. So the Bitcoin charts start catching up to the NASDAQ and gold, which we're slightly behind right now. Alligator jaws begin to close. Later, alts start waking up. ETH versus BTC pair improves. The total 3 improves and dominance shifts. I haven't brought up the BTC, the Bitcoin dominance chart in a while, right? But that's the yes bucket. And that's important to understand that. So liquidity is the tide. The clock may have stretched out. Alligator jaws are dislocations. It's not the end of the world. And your scoreboard, if you have one, will keep you honest. And that, my friend, is the most important thing. Right? Are you holding or not? Are you frustrated and kind of giving in? I mean, everyone has to make their own decisions, but it's important. What are you holding through the chop? Yeah, we talked about 90-10 months and months and months and months and months ago and how we pivoted in our portfolio management and we switched it, we turned it around to 90% Bitcoin, ETH, and XRP and Solana. And because we made that move, you know, the red is not as bad because we made the move, to be honest with you. Yeah, for sure. Alex Sheets in the building. What's up, brother? Yeah, I hear you, man. That's right. Alex Sheets says it's an important thing, and a lot of people forget. That's that frustration. Win moon. 7 years holding, and I am still broke. I have never hit a 50x, 100x, 500x or out. Yeah. 7 years. 2025, 2018? 2018, yeah. Joseph Brunetti. What's going on, man? Tony says Jordan waited 7 years before he won a championship. Mm, strong, great point. Tony says I'm 5Y, man. 5 years. He understands, he gets it. The liquidity is coming really soon. 776 to all active military. Alex says no more 4 year cycles. The market is completely different from 2017, 21. Yeah. No, it's not. Is it too much to ask for FLR or dollar? No, it's not, bro. FLR token to $1. No, it's not. No, it's not. They're building out some great stuff over there, FLR Networks. What's this latest thing? Quantic said something about, is it something rail, professional rail, PROF rail? I have to look at it. I can't wait to talk about that as well. FLR Network is awesome with a capital A, baby. With a capital A. Let me see what is that thing called? Proof rails. Introducing proof rails. Yeah, I can't wait to talk about that. I'll talk about that hopefully at tomorrow's live stream as well. Let me share this little Arthur Hayes thing real quick. Arthur Hayes said this. Take it for what it is. Do you think the guy's a smart guy or not? It's really up to you. Don't fight the Bank of Japan. VE real rates is the explicit policy. Japanese yen to $200 and Bitcoin to a milli, he says. So there's that. Let me see if I have my thing about this here. I asked ChatGPT about the post from Arthur Hayes. I asked it if this post and that chart fit into Raoul Pal's framework. ChatGPT said it fits Raoul's framework almost perfectly because it's the same movie from a different camera angle. Raoul's core idea, the way he talks about it, is basically markets are liquidity driven. When liquidity expand, risk assets rip. When liquidity contracts or leverage gets forced out, I'm not sure if we're ever going to learn the leverage challenge. If we would just learn that leverage challenge, and I'm not necessarily talking so much about the lend and borrow leverage as I am about the 4x, 5x, 10x, 20x leverage in these perps and these decentralized, these perps and these other centralized exchanges. That's the kind of leverage that is really the most dangerous. So markets are liquidity driven. When liquidity expands, risk assets rip. When liquidity contracts or leverage gets forced out, risk assets wobble until policymakers have to respond. Now plug Japan into that. How the Bank of Japan slide fits Raoul's liquidity thesis. The Bank of Japan tightening equals a local liquidity drain that can become a global liquidity event. When Japan raises its rates and signals we can't keep going, it changes the math on borrowing cheap yen, levering it into higher yield global assets like United States bonds, credit equities, and crypto. If that trade starts to unwind, it's a deleveraging impulse. That's liquidity leaving risk assets, even if nothing fundamental changed about Bitcoin or XRP. This matches Raoul's view. Price reacts to liquidity slant positioning first and narratives later. The unwind creates stress, and stress is what forces the next liquidity wave. Japan's tightening slant, yen strengthening can create global funding stress because the carry trade is huge and deeply embedded. When funding stress rises, something eventually breaks or tightens enough that the policymaker steps in. So you get a sequence Raoul describes constantly. Tightening impulse leads to volatility slant shakeout, which leads to policy response, slant liquidity ops, which leads to risk assets re-rating higher. That's why you'll see two people argue BTC is bearish based on that chart from, or that chart or that graph was from the Bank of Japan. BTC bearish or BTC bullish from the same Bank of Japan development. They're looking at different parts of the sequence. Raoul's debt has to be financed point still holds. Japan can actually accelerate it. Raoul's debt liquidity argument is governments are running big deficits. The system needs buyers. When things tighten too far, central banks and treasury plumbing end up adding liquidity one way or another. And that is the essence of Raoul's message. Japan tightening can increase the possibility or the probability of that response, because if the carry unwind pulls liquidity from global markets, it can cause sharper drawdowns or funding strains. One of the things Raoul Pal kept saying over and over and over again is about how the lady Yellen kept going over to Japan. She kept going over to Japan. She kept going over to Japan. Right before she left, she kept going over to Japan. Right? And then they're all meeting together, the top G7 nations, because they knew this was coming and they had to have a plan for it. They had to have a plan for it, right? So strains make it harder to finance debt smoothly without some form of accommodation. So paradoxically, the Bank of Japan tightening can be the spark that brings forward the next easing slant liquidity measures elsewhere, which is exactly what Arthur Hayes is saying. This is exactly what Arthur Hayes is saying. So does it align with Raoul's talk? That's what I asked ChatGPT, and said yes, with the clean framing. The Bank of Japan move equals the liquidity pull slant catalyst for volatility phase. Raoul's thesis equals the liquidity push that follows as the system adapts to debt and instability. Or in one line, Japan can cause the squeeze. The squeeze can cause the pivot. The pivot is what Raoul is betting on for risk assets. just here to share the bigger picture. I think it's important that we have it so we can remain cool, calm, and collected, plan accordingly, think like a sophisticated investor. Man United 7705 said, I'm holding strong. XRP is my biggest bag. Welcome to the channel, brother. Appreciate you checking in. XRP is my biggest bag. I also had Solana and FLR. Also hold Solana and FLR. I think XRP should do well next year, especially with the ETFs, Blair, Evernorth, Doppler, etc. I agree. Tony says, Trump signed an executive order to pay the active troops 1,700. Oh, active troops. Really? Nice. Okay. Very cool. Trump signed an executive order to pay the active troops $1,776 warrior dividend. I love it. I love it. I hope he follows through on that as promised before Christmas. I hope he follows through on that. That is sweet. Very, very sweet. All right, fam. So there it is. I hope that helps you to strengthen your resolve, not to give up. In my view, my opinion, we are right. We were right. We are right. This is the biggest global macro trade in the history of trade finance. We were here early. People like Alex Yeet holding for 7 years, continuing to strengthen his resolve. And it has to happen. 2026 is going to be an interesting year. We'll see how it goes. We're going to see how it goes. But the market the probability is favorable for the liquidity injection. I think it's favorable, and that's a good way to put it. All right, fam. Do me a favor and hit that like button on the way out if you didn't get a chance to do so on the way in. It's been a really, really cool hang. I appreciate you guys checking in on a Friday. Yeah, it's been a really, really cool hang for sure. Can't wait to share some news with you guys in the next couple of days. Kind of like why I was out in Oklahoma, all that kind of stuff. Can't wait to share it with you guys. Do me a favor. If you happen to be in that 50% or so of people that are hanging out, listening to and watching the Crypto Siege, if you've been enjoying those hangouts, please consider subscribing to the channel. We had a mad dash to get to 10,000 subs. We're a few hundred away. Share this live stream with others. Get the word out. A few hundred away, like 300 and something away from 10,000 subs. And I know we can get there, especially with your help. And don't forget to ring that notification bell, baby, so that you know whenever we go live or whenever we upload a video. Chung Link's in the building. Happy Friday, brother. I'm going to end this video like I do all of my videos and remind you guys of this. Old money doesn't want you to win. But that's okay, though, because you and I, we're already winning. And I would ask you to consider this, or perhaps ponder the idea or notion of living your life permissionless. I'll talk to you guys soon. See ya.